Hey there, amplifiers. Thanks for tuning in today. We're going to be talking to an expert when it comes to getting your finances in order and planning for the future. We have to think about planning for the future because it's always coming at you and things are always changing. We have a lot of changes with the economy, with politics, and just the world in general. If we're not paying attention to what we're doing, we could find ourselves getting the short end of the stick. And it's the actions that you're taking now or not taking now that are paving your future. So if you haven't done so already, make sure that you subscribe to Growth Amplifiers. We're giving the best tips, tools, and strategies for growing your advisory and coaching practice by elevating the value you provide and the experience you provide. And I wanted to double down really quick on experience. This past weekend, I had the opportunity to attend a wedding out in Tallahassee, Florida. It's a grand wedding. It's one of the most extravagant weddings I've been to in a while. And it just reminded me how much experience plays a difference in building relationships. We take the time to do business and do the operations of business, but we've got to spend more time crafting an experience that really helps people remember, that helps people connect, helps elevate people. So we're going to be chatting about some of that today with our guest. I'm glad to have here. All right. So Tara Nolan, if you haven't done so, subscribe. Oh my goodness, subscribe. You're stuck there, aren't you? All right. I don't think it's going to disappear. But there it goes. So Tara, thank you for joining us. She is the money strategist who supports women entrepreneurs and professionals to achieve and retain the lifestyles they want. Very important. She's also the host of Wealth is a Team Sport and has over 11 years as a wealth advisor at Nolan Financial. Welcome to Growth Amplifiers, Tara.
Kenny, I'm so glad to be here with you. I know that when you were on my show, we just had a fabulous conversation because I think one of our core values we share is really adding value and helping people get better with what they do. So I'm looking forward to what you have in store for me today.
Well, I really was glad to be on your podcast because, you can connect with a lot of different people that do their job. Maybe they know their trade, but then you connect with other people that have that amplifier spirit. They're going above and beyond and really pushing forward to be the best that they can be for those they serve. And I really felt that when we last connected.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love kind of what you're doing because you always in life, I think you have to have mentors and coaches. And, I know I talk about it in my book with money that you have the teams, like you have the team that helps you with your family and the teachers that take care of your kids. And then, as a business owner, you have your coach that's helping you bring you, because whatever level you're at, there's always the next level. So you always have that coach that's helping. And you and I were sharing that like it's a forever process of crafting communication, right? Because isn't that the thing is you may have the best answer and picture in your head, but you've got to get that picture in someone else's head. And it's just such an art form to go, how do I get you to see what I see? Because I see your potential. And if you could understand this concept, and you can get so excited, and it's a process to learn how to do that communication. So yeah, what you're doing, amplifying, I love it because that's what it's all about is you're doing the things you know how to do. And it's like, how do I tweak it or bring it up to get to that next place?
Speaking of which, pardon me, I got a water for a reason. Speaking of which, how did you get to do what you're doing now? What was your journey that led you to what you're doing now?
Well, it's interesting because I think like most entrepreneurs out there, it's not a straight line. You kind of started out, you kind of start doing things that you don't want to do until you start to realize, oh, what I do want to do. And I was in the Air Force, and early on, I remember when I was in college, there were things people knew about money that I didn't know. But I was just focused on becoming a pilot. And so I went off and I flew airplanes and did that. But when I had the opportunity to transition out of the Air Force, I started looking around at what did I want to do? And it was interesting. I knew what I didn't want to do. So I knew I didn't want to go sit in a cubicle for another 9-to-5 job. That wasn't what I wanted to do. And started looking, I looked at franchising, I looked at all these different things. But what I knew is I wanted to have something where I could communicate, where I could teach, because I love when people have that light bulb moment where they get it. And then I kind of wanted to have my flexibility and be in
Mm.
control of my time. And so I started out with real estate investing and we did a lot of that. But as I started doing the real estate investing, I said, okay, so you have these moments where you go from having this W-2 job where you're getting a steady paycheck and you kind of get that kind of a life. But once you're an entrepreneur, you live this life where you get chunks of money and then you may not get paid again for quite a while. And it's a whole different thing to go, so I've got this chunk of money. What do I do with this money? Because I need to have it available for my next investment, to invest in myself, for my food, clothing, and shelter needs. But meanwhile, I need it to be working for me. And what do I do with that? And so I started looking around from the real estate investing and saying, okay, so what do you do when you have those chunks of money that you need it to be working for you, but you need to have access to it. And so then that led me to becoming a wealth advisor and showing people how do you how do you look at your money holistically, because we all have the basic needs, but everyone's situation is just a little different. And so there's not a one size fits all solution, but coming at it from that, strategic look from the military experience and the entrepreneurial look, going, how do I take all of the puzzle pieces that you have in your life and where you're trying to go and maximize so you can reach your maximum financial potential? And that was what got me where I am right now.
I really appreciate that because the thing is, we're procrastinators as people. We
Yes.
generally do that. Even the best of us who are pretty good at getting things done, which I'd like to think I'm pretty good at getting things done. There's some things we just have to procrastinate at.
Oh,
We
yeah.
can't do everything. There's just not enough time in the day. So sometimes it's strategic. Sometimes you choose, hey, let me procrastinate on this so I can get these other things done. But sometimes it's not strategic. And we could look at that financial planning that seems like, that's 20, 30 years out. I don't have time for that right now. I'm doing these other things that are right here, right now.
Right.
And then we're not taking care of it because it's not right now. It's like, we got time to do that. But slowly
Right.
but surely it creeps. It creeps. And the
Yes.
actions that you're taking or not taking will have a huge toll on the future and what's possible. So
I
so when we're getting when people like yourself who can see the lay of the land and they're connecting with people, how do you get people to see that, like, right now they need to be doing something? How can you guide people into action in the moment when it doesn't seem like it's as pressing of a thing? It's further out.
Wow, I mean, you just hit on it right there, and that's the struggle for everybody is, hey, starting out, well, I'm too young for that. I'm only 30. I retirement, what are you talking about? I've got way plenty of time. But it's funny because then I start to meet with my 50-year-olds and they're like, "Eek, I'm
Eek.
50 and I just paid for my daughter's wedding and kids are in college and holy crap, I've retirement's coming up and what do I do?" And then I talk to a lot of my clients that come that are like 60 and 65 and they just kind of go look around and we're like, "What happened?"
I was just like
What
20 and stuff,
that
and now
was
I'm
just
not.
and it's crazy because life just goes by like that, and it's not sexy, right? Like saving money and planning for retirement. There's nothing glamorous about that, but it's just the simple things like compounding interest, and this is one of those things where while you're out front as the entrepreneur making business happen, you just want that plan in place that's operating quietly in the background, so that way when you get those chunks of cash in, it's not a big thought process. You already know, hey, okay, next time I make this much money, I'm going to put 15% aside and it's going to go work over here. And I know how it's working. So I like to talk with my entrepreneurs and say, let me just take this off your plate. Just like you have your virtual assistant that does the scheduling. And because as an entrepreneur, it's not what can you do, because you can do everything, but there's not time to do everything. So it's about going, what do I take off of my plate and put to work for me while I am doing the connecting and growing the business and making that happen. So getting people to kind of think about it like that, because, if you look at marketing,
Mhm.
especially like for money, like it's always that commercial on TV where it's like the couple standing on the beach, or I've seen them like sitting together in bathtubs or whatever they're doing. And you're like, oh, I'm not that. I don't have gray hair yet. That's not for me. Or this feeling that you should be able to do everything yourself. And so I think a lot of people just go, well, money, I'm really smart. I'm good at it. I'm a business owner. I should just take care of my money. I'll do it myself. But the problem is that always falls off the plate on that to-do list to the next day. And then next thing you know, it's 10 years later and you're going, crap, I haven't saved anything.
Yeah. I can recall from being 20 to 30, seemed like there was a lot of things going on. I was going to school, I was graduating, I was meeting different ladies, some that I guess all but one didn't work out, but the one did. um,
Congratulations.
getting a career, starting a career, buying a home, all those different things. And then it seemed like a decent amount of time. And then from 30s to 40s, just like, boop, what the, and it does light a little fire under you. And for those of you who are tuning in, she's mentioning an important part here, because it's really easy to think, I know this. Why do I need help with it? But there's a difference between knowing and doing and getting the result you want. And somebody that's on your team that knows your goals, that knows what you're trying to accomplish, can help you see your blind spot, and they could help give you a little bit of accountability to make sure that you're doing the things that are important for you. And it's critical. I see it in my line of work too. There's a lot of people in their teams, they know what needs to happen, but there's the little differences that they may not know, or that they may need just a little bit of a challenge, a little bit of accountability to get those ideas in action that will make all the difference in the world. So that's going to lead us to our big three, Tara. I'm going to walk you through the big three of what we got going on. She's like,
Awesome.
oh my goodness, he didn't prep me for this at all. So this is just kind of like number one, as a growth amplifier, how do you fuel yourself to continue to improve and to elevate? I know you're an action taker. You just got done writing a book. We were talking before this, we started here, that you went through a speaking course, and you're always looking to develop and grow yourself. How do you fuel yourself to keep that drive and that momentum?
Well, I love this question because I started out early on in my thing. I came across Russ Whitney, and he talked about this idea of you need to have your continual mind feed.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's a combination of, there's always new things with business that you've got to keep going, but it's also a spiritual practice and kind of putting things into context and understanding, what's your why? Because money's good. We all need money, but in and of itself, it's not that exciting.
Right.
It's the tool that we need that fuels that next adventure or the next growth of your business or the next way you're going to reach more people. But you've got to have a bigger why, and I really like the things that help you go up to that 30,000-foot view, and you look down and go, I'm a human soul. I'm a soul having a human experience. And so any one thing that's going on in my life that seems like terrifying or dramatic, you just take that, you take that big look and go, it's okay. I'm here, and I'm getting better, and I'm getting ready to be ready. So I'm practicing, and if it worked out, that's awesome. But then if it didn't work out, that's okay. Or what's the other quote? Fail forward fast. And
Right.
so you can hear about those things, but you have to have that practice that lets you feel it, because that's when it really starts to go, oh, then I feel good. Because then when you feel good, then that starts to percolate into everything that you're doing with everybody else. And when I do that, then that constantly puts me in a state of, okay, if I want to get this communication out and work with the next group of people, who's going to be my next coach? What speaking class am I going to take? Or, what mastermind group am I going to join that's going to help me learn something that I don't know? Or even better, have you ever found that? Probably you do as a coach. A lot of times someone will say something, you're like, I knew that, but they'll hit it. It'll hit your ears at just the right time. And then it'll help you put into action all these other things that It lets all these things fall into place.
That's a good point. One of the things I picked up last year was mental fitness through
Ah,
positive intelligence. And I had read a book by Brian Tracy on sales. Brian Tracy is the author of Eat That Frog.
oh yeah.
Great author and speaker. And he was talking about the number one key to sales is mental fitness, and that you need to build a mental fitness regimen. And at the time when I first read it a couple years back, I was like, okay, that's nice. Yeah, you probably need to have good mental fitness.
Right. True.
But then last year, going through the mental fitness program with positive intelligence, I had a deeper level understanding and learned like an operating system for applying mental fitness and a regimen that you could follow to strengthen it. And so, the beginning of this year, I was re-listening that book, and I heard him say that, and I was this time because I had new knowledge. Bing, 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 bing. It became like you're saying. It hit the nail on the head, and I said, "Oh, I heard you last time, but now that I have new knowledge, I'm completely receiving the message differently."
Right.
And so then I was able to act upon that and change what was possible for the future. So that's a great point you mentioned. Sometimes you may know something, but someone else shines a light on it at the right time, in the right place when you have new knowledge, and it just changes what is possible for you, which is really powerful. Which brings us to number 2, because you're an awesome rock star professional. You've just authored a book, you have a podcast, you're doing some amazing things. And those are definitely some ways that you're standing out and differentiating. But besides those things, what are some of the things that you do yourself that is helping you differentiate yourself from others that might offer a similar product or service?
Boy, this is the question, right? This is the magic question right here. And this is I've had a lot of epiphanies on this last year because I've really gone all in with my next level of growth, having coaching. And then I can just tell you the process of writing the book, I'm so glad to have that out there for the world. But talk about really uncovering in yourself. Like, what are the layers and the pieces, and finance is definitely hard because there's 1,000 financial advisors out there. When I'm involved in the networking in town and in every nonprofit, so that is a challenge. And what I finally am realizing that differentiates what I do, and this is where I keep having to remind myself, is it's not about me. It's not about what I can do for you. It's about the client and the person and what do they need. And you can't get there by just showing up and telling somebody, here's all the things I can do for you, until you know what it is that they even need. Because you can't look at somebody and know their life. They may be driving a fancy car and look put together, but you don't know what's going on in their world. And it's creating that conversation. And I think the thing I like now that I'm really understanding better is having that question and getting them to say, you need to ask better questions, because people will
Mhm.
ask questions like, should I have a Roth? Or, should I put more money in my 401k? And in like a level of strategic and tactical questions, those are very tactical, easy answers. But I can't possibly begin to answer that question until I know strategically, where are you in your life? What is your goal? How many kids do you have? What does success look like for you? Because I can't, it's like giving medical advice over the phone until you can know what someone really needs. And the thing is a lot of people don't even know themselves because
Mhm.
they've been on the treadmill running hard, doing their thing, that they haven't even thought about it. And so I think that differentiation piece, and I think that's one of the things that attracted me to you, was that idea that you have to understand how to create a great experience. And part of that great experience is almost getting people to have that little bit of self-reflection to go, what is it? What does success look like for me? Before I can tell you I'm going to help you, we got to be on the same page about what it is that you're even trying to accomplish.
Hey there, this is Kenny from Growth Amplifiers, here to ensure you get your awesome ideas into action to grow and improve your business and achieve your full potential. Take the first step by visiting growthamplifiers.com and clicking the Start Here button. Take the assessment to get your personalized score. Then select from free resources to learn how to improve your score. Don't wait. Be proactive and take action now by visiting growthamplifiers.com and clicking the Start Here button. And always keep on amplifying. Now, let's get back to the show. I've made that mistake in the past, but I've learned from that mistake. But it's so important. Early on, I was connecting with some professionals and sharing, oh, I could help with lead generation, because that's something that I can help with. But if you're talking to people where leads is not their concern, and maybe it's time, that's not what I was trying to do. Maybe it's time, then you need to lead with, what does someone need? And you
Right.
mentioned the experience when we were last connecting. I was on your show. I was down in Orlando again. Man, Orlando, I
You
get
were,
around
I
there.
know.
I'm going to be there this week and next month. But this book, this is a pretty good book as well. The Experience Economy. They gifted that out at the conference and just talking about how it is the experience economy, how we need to focus on elevating the experience. I'm like, what? This is very coincidental because I was just having this conversation with Tara, just how important that was. Um, so when, so speaking of which, in a moment, I'd like you to chat about your book, but we got one more question before we go there. And it's doubling down on the experience. So crafting that memorable experience. Maybe you're meeting someone in person. If we still do networking occasionally, I think I might do it this week. It's been a while in person. If you're networking online, you're making that connection. If we craft an experience, we can be memorable. Even if we're giving an interview, we can do something that's memorable, and it's an important thing because if it's not memorable, we're easily forgotten. So, what's the way that you work to craft a memorable experience with those you connect with?
Well, this was something that I learned when I left the military. I was able with the Chamber of Commerce to get a local CEO in town to be my mentor. And it was really timely because in the Air Force, I learned how to fly airplanes. I was very technically competent, but I didn't know anything about sales or talking to people. I was like, I can make the best plan ever, but you want me to talk to somebody? And she was fabulous because what she said was, this process of networking, it's very intentional that you find someone that you admire, that you want to know what they do. You set up like a 15-minute meeting with them. And I take this to everyone that I do now, but you set up a 15-minute meeting with them and you have 3 good questions. And then but it's all about them. And you
Mm-hmm.
talk, be interested because you're talking to them for a reason. How did you get where you are? What do you love about what you do? What do you recommend? And then the very last question is, who should I talk to next? But then you be very respectful and you keep it short. So I
Mm-hmm.
think to have a memorable experience, you need to be very interested in the person you're talking to and not phoning it in. Like if you're not interested in them, you don't fake it and you shouldn't be talking to them. And then you need to be very conscientious of time because we're all busy. And
Mm-hmm.
so you say, "Hey, I need 15 minutes of your time." 15 minutes, not 15 minutes that expands out into 30 or 45 minutes, because it may be a great conversation, but what someone's going to remember afterwards is, "Oof, that took a lot of my time." And
Or
so,
looking at their watch. Yeah.
yeah, even if it's a great conversation. So be interested, not interesting, I think sums it up the best way. Find out about them, what's going on with them. The most fun thing I've been doing recently that I will continue when I network with people is I don't ask them about their business and job. I'm like, "What do you do for fun? What is your thing?"
Is your thing.
And I've had people tell me the most fabulous stories about biking trips in different parts of the world, and I think that's what makes it memorable because it's our favorite topics are always ourselves.
Like that's a good question. So what's one of your craziest experiences that you're prepared to share on a interview that comes to mind? This is just off the top. You suggested it. I'm just putting it there.
Oh, a crazy travel experience?
Yeah, crazy travel experience that you thought that was kind of fun, interesting.
Oh, well, for my husband and I, diving is like our thing. And so if you go to Saipan, there is this like crazy, like you walk down like 100 feet into like this almost like a cave and you get into this little pool of water and then you dive down and then you go out into the ocean. There's like these 3 tunnels. And we did it 20 years ago. And that was like almost like our first date weekend. And we went back and did it again. And it was nuts this time because it was packed with people. The first time we went, there was no one there. And we were there and there was a bunch of Koreans and Chinese people. And we had this guide that was from Alabama, like a football player from Alabama, but he actually had been in Korea and he could speak Korean. And there's this one little section that was super dangerous and we were walking across it and not even part of his group. Some tiny little Korean lady was about to go into this place. And he just said, "No." Like there was like 20, 50 people down there and they all just stopped and she like froze. And he's like, "Someone just died doing that last year. I'm sorry, but I couldn't
Oh,
just let that go."
oh my goodness.
And so was just like, you think you're on this vacation just doing like this nice little thing, and then you run into people. And it just reminded me, never judge a book by the cover, because to look at this guy, I mean, he had kind of like, I assumed he was military. He wasn't military at all, but he had the buzz cut, super fit. And he had been a football player, but he was a Korean speaker, and that was what he did. So getting out in the world and just doing crazy things is what it's all about.
I love it. I like that exploratory nature, getting out there, doing crazy things. You got to try things, right? You got to be out there and give things a shot. It doesn't hurt to do that unless it kills you, and then don't do it. If it's killed other people.
Hopefully someone's going to yell, no,
no, no. So we've got this awesome book, Money Moves. Tell us about it. Tell us what's in it, why people should consider taking action and checking this out. You feed your mind with new ideas lead to new actions lead to new results. So let's catch people up to speed.
So this book, what I'm really happy about, and I took the class and we were talking about it, was I didn't want to write another how-to book. There are tons of how-to finance books out there. Go pick one up if that's what you want. This is a book for entrepreneurs and people who are super busy, but they know that they need to have their money working for them, and it's accessible. So every chapter starts with a story so that you have someone that you can relate to. And as you go through the book, you're going to find somebody that relates to that. My teaching side comes out because I really like learning styles. Some people like words, some people like audio, some people like visual. So I have, the stories that really capture for those people that want to read the story. But at the end of every chapter, I do a case study. So that way for the analytical people, they can kind of test themselves and see if they understood the concept of the book. And it weaves it through. But the big picture is, there's not a magic bullet. And I think with finance, there's a lot of people out there going, just tell me that secret. If you just told me the secret sauce, then I could just become rich like, everybody else, or like Jeff Bezos or somebody. But it's really, there's a process, and there's a planning process, and you need to have, I walk people through, like, you should have your food, clothing, and shelter money, the bottom of Maslow's hierarchy. And you want that. And then you want to have your play money, and that's the money that you use to grow your business, and you can take more risk. But it's really hard when you're taking risk and then you're not sure if you're going to be able to pay your mortgage, especially once you have a family. And so I want people to understand that holistically, when you look at it, there's a balance. And here's what you do that's safe. And then here's what you do that's more aggressive. And you're intentional about it. You're not just going, I ask a lot of people who have a 401k, are you invested in your 401k? Is it a Roth? And like, I don't know. I'm like, okay, tell me what your retirement plan is. Well, I have a 401k. Okay, so you have this 401k that is like your whole plan. You don't know anything about it. And for a lot of entrepreneurs, once they branch off and start their business, they don't even have a 401k because they're just all in with the business, and they're not doing anything to take care of themselves. And I don't know about you, Kenny, but one of the big things that you start your own business and become an entrepreneur is for financial freedom, so that you can have that time and that creative space and more time with your family. So if you're not taking care of yourself as you go, then you're missing a big thing. And so that's what this book, I really wanted to make it accessible for people to understand you're not alone. If you haven't done it right, that's okay. Don't beat yourself up about that. But here's how you can make it accessible. And then here's what you start to do. And there's basic steps. There's not a magic bullet.
I think that's a great point. It really aligns with, my philosophy on growth as well. People are looking for that right software, the newest tactic, the trend that can just change everything. And, someone can invest in a certain stock and manage to become rich out of nowhere. But it's like winning the lottery. It's very slim.
That's the only story you hear. You don't hear about everybody else.
But so you can find those little things, but they're freak chances. There's not a formula for that. The true and tested way is to have the right habits and optimize your right systems. If you're taking the right actions with consistent persistence, that's the way you can amplify. Whether it's in your finances or in your business growth, you've got to be consistent with it. And yes, I'm curious to know your question. This is
because I think it's kind of aligns because you're a growth amplifier. And so that's one of the big concepts that I like to teach people that most people don't know is this idea of leverage. And
Mhm.
how do you give your money more than one job so that you accelerate the growth? And so I know that's something I do with my business is I teach people how to leverage their money because you need to save it, but then you need to have access to it as well. And so
Mm.
locking it up into a 401k is not the best place for entrepreneurs because you need your money. You can't wait, 40 years to get at it. So what do you do with your money so that you can have it working for you, but then still have access to it when you need it and that kind of thing. And I'm interested because I know that must apply with what you're doing as a growth amplifier, like teaching people how to leverage because you only have so much time and you have finite resources. So how do you amplify?
In regards to investing,
No, in
or
regards to investing or just with how people, how you help them grow their business. How do you help them amplify what they're doing?
so we've been really focused on productizing and taking the things that you'll do many times and then finding a way to systemize it, just
Mhm.
like authoring a book or creating your own products and your own trainings. And you can scale it in such a way where you can have your team move it forward, or it can be automated, but you create it once and you could sell it or leverage it many times. And thinking about building a business, especially people who are in the trades who are used to exchanging their time for money, how they can create something in such a way they can better leverage their time and their team's time. So there is a way that it can be done. You're already on that path, um, but a lot of people get so caught up, like we were mentioning earlier, with the day to day, and then doing the things that need to be done now. They're not thinking long term. They're not thinking about how could I better invest my time, money, and resources to build something that can grow without me having to do all the legwork.
Well, and do I have time to share a quick anecdote with you just to kind of
Yes.
highlight for people? So this is one of my favorite clients I had a few years ago is she was a real estate investor and she came to me and she said, I have $400,000 I just made on my last deal. And I don't know if my next deal is going to come in 3 weeks or it's going to come 6 months from now. So what do I do with this money? And so it started the conversation. I said, "Well, is everything else covered?" Because I usually like to look holistically at everything. And she's like, "I'm good with, everything else, but I just need to know with this $400,000, what do I do with it?" And I said, "Well, let's talk about it." So I said, "You could put it in the bank." And I said, "If you put the money in the bank, what are you going to earn?" She's like, "Nothing, maybe 0.1%."
Lose money.
And then I said, and then when you take the money out of the bank, are you going to earn anything? And she's like, "Well, no, I'm gonna take it out of the bank, so it's just, it's gonna be off in the investment." So I said, "Well, that's one option, but what's the good thing is it's safe, right? You're not gonna lose anything." But I asked her, as a real estate investor, you understand other people's money and leverage. If you put your money in the bank, are you getting much leverage? Is that money really working for you? She's like, "No, it's just safe." I'm like, "Got it." So then, like, the next option that a lot of people would look at is the market. I said, "You put it in the market, what's gonna happen?" And she's like, "Well, I could either be a hero or I'm gonna lose my shit." And I said, "Well, right. So you can, depending on the period, if you had an amazing quarter, you could earn 20 some 25%, or you could also lose 20 or 25%. But same scenario, when you take it out of the market, are you earning money anymore?" She's like, "No, it's out of the market and it's off in my investment." And so that's when I talked to her about with especially my real estate investors and people like that, I like to look at tools that exist out there where you can put your money into an investment and it creates collateral because then you can borrow the money out, but you don't have to take all of your money out of the product. It keeps growing. You take the money out, and then when you're done, you put it back, and you take it out, and you put it back. But when you take the money out, you're still earning dividends and interest on that money while it's working for you. So you've created a situation where the money is working for you while you're working. And I said, all these examples exist. And she's like, "Well, tell me what that is." And I said, "Well, we need to sit down and look at that because there's a couple different ways, and I have to understand you and look at it. But this is the difference when you're trying to do it yourself because you go, well, I could put it in the bank and I don't have time to figure something else out. Or I could put it in the market, but I don't trust the market. And I don't, what's going to happen? What kind of fees am I going to pay? So you end up, what just happens is you maybe stick it in the bank or maybe you stuff it underneath your mattress, whatever your preference is. And so those are the kind of things I like to walk through is teaching people leverage because how would you like to have your money earning something, you still have access, so it's not stuck in a 401k. You can spend it, but then it's still earning in the background, and then you're earning over here, and then you just keep bouncing off of that. And that was a concept I learned from my real estate that I brought in to my finance world, because they don't teach you that straight up on the finance side.
Right. That you could be working smarter, not harder. This is why it's helpful to have a guide. They're going to know some things that you don't know. Even if you know some things, they're going to help you see it from a different perspective, help you analyze and figure out if it's right for you. And especially when you're working with someone who's a trusted advisor, they're going to work out to make that relationship a positive thing so they could be introduced to other people. So if you haven't had those conversations with a financial advisor or somebody, don't wait, don't procrastinate. Be proactive, take action, and get a fresh perspective now. You could learn more about Tara at taranolan.com. And is there any other place that you'd like to share for people to check out?
I've got my website, nolanfinancialpartners.com. TaraENolan.com will also take you there. The book is available on Barnes & Nobles and Amazon. So I would encourage people to check that out. Definitely like and subscribe for my website for Wealth as a Team Sport, because it starts with that trust building. I know we talked about this last time, is, part of getting a good financial advisor. There's a lot of financial advisors out there that are great. And the question is, who do you resonate with? Because money is very personal. And you want to find someone that won't just only be able to manage your money, but it's going to be a person that you're comfortable talking with about your money. And so, go out there and for me, you can check out the YouTube videos and listen to what I say. And if it resonates with you, then that's awesome. And if it doesn't, find somebody that you resonate with, because there's not only one person that can help you out there in the world, but when you find that person that you click with, that has the information, but it then helps you go, this really works for me. That's when it becomes a beautiful thing, and you start to get that leverage, or like you do, you amplify.
Awesome. So thank you very much, Tara, for coming in and sharing your insights and knowledge with our amplifiers. We appreciate having you and what you're doing in the world. You are an amplifier to the world, and we appreciate that.
Thanks, Kenny, for having me. I really enjoyed the conversation.
Likewise. To show your support, take a moment to amplify this message by sharing it online. To connect with me or gain more business growth insights, visit www.growthamplifiers.com.